Hi, my name is Peggy Tuggle, and I probably was about 20 or 21 when I started to smoke, and I am a former smoker. My dad smoked the rolled cigarettes. I didn't quite get that, so I think I smoked Pall Malls for a while and then Winston's. So, and whatever I could borrow at the time. I think I was attracted by my father and the guys that he hung out with. They smoked and played cards and played music. He was a musician, so I loved being around them. And so it kind of got to be where that became a part of it. So once I became an adult, that part of it stuck with me. I also played cards pretty good too because he was a good teacher. But that came from just watching, and it's amazing how we learn from watching. I remember telling my kids, do what I say do, but that doesn't work. They do what they see you do, and that's what we always have to remember. It's just uh, being honest with them. Now I am, then I didn't know, and that's a big part of it as well. If you don't know the dangers of what you're doing, it's hard to convey that to anyone else, especially your children. And I had no idea that smoking could cause so many problems. It was never discussed when I was a kid. My dad and his friends did it, but it was so just common for them that I don't even think they knew. I don't think they had the concept to know that what I'm doing is bad for me and bad for my family. I don't think they would have deliberately hurt us if they had known. So it's just learning now when I look back and realize how much I didn't know. It bothers me a lot because my children grew up in this atmosphere of smoking. Just as I grew up under my father, they grew up under me. And some of them smoke today. So when I talk to them about smoking, I always try to remember where it came from. And I have to be honest, originally, it maybe didn't all come from me, but a lot of it did. If I could get back all the money that I spent over those years of smoking, it would be absolutely wonderful because it had to be in the thousands of dollars. And at that time, cigarettes were not that expensive. Today, it would probably be triple what I spent because the prices have increased to a tremendous degree. And I did smoke. My kids were home with me. I stayed home with them until they started school. So they spent a lot of time around me. And I did smoke in the house with them. I don't know of any of them. My kids were never sick. So there was no warning that what I was doing was hurting them. One of them may have had an ear infection, but I came up like my mama. You know, they had cod liver oil every day. So rarely did they experience any real illnesses. I can't remember, but one of my children ever going to the hospital. So there was not a warning there that I was doing something that could hurt them. And I also uh, drove. I drove then, and I smoked then. So I also had smoke in the car with me when I was driving my kids around, and probably other people's kids. Because as I said, I did not know that I did not know about secondhand smoke at that time. And so I learned at a point where I started having asthma very, very badly. I was in the hospital probably 2, 3 times a year. I was never uh, able to quite figure out what was going on. I just thought that I had developed some kind of allergies until the doctor started talking to me about the fact that you already have asthma and it's not going to get better as long as you're smoking. You have to stop smoking. That was easy for him to say, but it was so hard for me because at that point I was addicted to nicotine. I convinced myself that whenever I got upset or something happened, if I just got a cigarette, it settled my nerves. Well, it did, but it was because I was away from the nicotine, and nicotine has a way of giving you what you want or what you need. And so you convince yourself that it calms my nerves. Smoking just calms my nerves. And it's not a lie, but it's not the calming that you need. It's the introduction of more nicotine into your system. And that's the difference. Um, I knew I had to quit because I knew I wanted to get well. I knew that I didn't have a choice. But I tried numerous times. And I would do okay for a couple of weeks. And then something would happen, and I'd go back and get a cigarette, and I'm right back at it again. I must have done this for 2 or 3 years. And one day, I went in the hospital, very, very sick. I was flat on my back for 11 days, I believe, before they ever let me get up. That's how bad that attack was. And I sat up in bed that night, and for the first time, I asked for help. Not from the doctors, but I said, Lord, you're going to have to help me do this. I can't do it by myself. I know that. I want to, but I just don't have it in me to fight this fight alone. So I ask you to help me. And I prayed that night at that hospital, up in that hospital bed, and that was the first time I ever spoke in tongues. Never knew it was coming. And I prayed, and when I got up the next morning, the doctor came in and asked me about the patches, and we can do this and we can do that. And I told him no. I said, God told me if I take this pack of cigarettes and this lighter and lay it on my dresser, he'll help me walk past it every day. Because I had to be able to be around cigarette smoke and not be drawn to it. So I had to be able to stop looking at it. And I did every day. I got up and I said, Lord, you got to help me get through this day. And he helped me get through that day. And day after day after day, from that point on, I went past those cigarettes and that lighter, and I never picked them up. Never again. Until I guess about 30, 45 days later, I decided it's time for me to throw them away because they probably make somebody sick. But God walked me through that, having the faith that he could do it. And with him, my faith rose so that I felt like I can do it. As long as God is with me, I can do it. And it proved to be true in my case. I think it would be true in anybody's case if you realize what the consequences are. And that's something that I'd like, if I said anything right now that I think might make a difference, I'd ask the parents to think about what you're doing to your children every day, what you're showing them every day, what you're telling them it's okay to do every day. But that thing that you're doing is causing some of them to get sick. It may cause you to get sick. My dad died from emphysema. I knew that he was not dead when I quit smoking. But I am so glad that God intervened on my behalf, because but for the grace of him go I. Because I was headed for emphysema, for possibly lung cancer. But God stepped in and helped me to let it go. And you can do that. And I'm not going to tell you that you'll never crave another cigarette, because that's a lie. If you are a smoker, once in a while it's going to pop up in your head that, why not? But I say, the devil is a liar. That's what I usually say. You are never going to take me back to that place. So it's a lot of it has to do with the kids as well. But if the kid is not exposed to it, they're not so apt to try it. And it's good to have a conversation. I sit down with my kids and say, I'm sorry. I know that some of you became a smoker because of me. Maybe you saw some of it somewhere else, but nevertheless, I exposed you to it in our home, and I apologize for that. I want to help you quit. Let me help you. Let me talk to you about how I quit. But let me tell you that you don't have to quit like I did. You don't have to quit cold turkey. If you just say from 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock tomorrow, I'm not going to smoke a cigarette. Get to that point first. And realize that if you cannot smoke all night or all day, in some of your jobs, you can't smoke on the job. But you never think about the fact that if I cannot smoke all day, I can quit. I don't have to go up, run and grab it as soon as I get off work. I can keep extending that time until I realize that I don't need the cigarette anymore. I never needed it in the first place. I don't need to place my children or my loved ones in danger because of a habit that can be broken. This is like anything else. You have to set your mind to do this thing and to work on it till you get it. It doesn't happen overnight, but it can happen. But as a former smoker, I want people to realize that, like I quit, you can too. I'm not any different than you are. I wasn't then. It's just to have a made-up mind and a relationship with God, because you always need help. But God will help you. You can do that thing. It's not too hard. It is only your will and your trust in God. But you can do it. And the family will help you. Ask for help. Get together as a family and say, okay, when you see me pick up a cigarette, say something. Or talk to me about it. Ask me, do I have to have that right now? And that will help the family down the road understand that just like you quit, it can help them as well. They helped you, so they know how not to start. And they know what the consequences are. And they know that the results are good health. The results are being able to live longer, to have your family together longer. And always know that that habit that came from somewhere, I don't know where it came from, but that habit was not always with you. You took on that. And just anything you take on, you can take off. So you have to trust and believe in yourself. Believe in your strength. Because you have it within yourself, within your core, within your spirit, to do whatever you set your mind to do. It's all about wanting and believing. So I would share that I walked through this thing and it wasn't easy, but it was worth it. And you'll find that too.